evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on UpNorthLive Unscripted at 6:30. We are at the halfway point of the work week, and another interesting weather day out there. A few lucky people saw some sunshine, Joe, but a lot of us saw some on and off rain showers and even a little bit of snow showers. But you know what? That's okay, because you've been talking all week about that warm up.
You know, and when it's Saturday around 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you look up and the sun is out and it's like 55 degrees, it'll be nice, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I even had to turn the wipers on briefly on the way into work today. Just a couple spits of rain out there. So we're dealing with that. And there are a couple areas tonight, Maya, mainly south, where we could see a little rain-snow mix. We'll show you that. And then, we'll kind of get into the good news. The sun and a warm up a little later.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe. Tonight, we are continuing our coverage on the recovery efforts underway across northern Michigan after the ice storms. It's been about a week and a half now. We have been covering different communities and taking a look at what things look like there and how recovery efforts have been ongoing. But one area that we haven't been to until today is Mackinac Island. And Daniel Zivian was on the island today, where crews are still working to clean up debris and trees on trails and the highway. And he shows us what it looks like there.
Mackinac Island is famous in part for its flowers. The Lilac Festival is in June, and flowers grow in many of the nicest front yards. We won't know how rough the lilacs are until they bloom, but for now there are more immediate problems deeper into the island.
Pretty much the entire eastern half of Mackinac Island State Park is impassable right now. So it's been a difficult process to kind of get started, but our crew has been hard at it. They've done an incredible job of getting primary roads open back up, especially roads that any houses are located on, any residential areas. There has been a request made to bring the National Guard here to the island as well to assist with clearing tree and debris and cleanup, and we should know more about that, pretty soon.
Islanders have handled much of the cleanup downtown, as they also race to get their shops and hotels ready for the season. Thankfully, some new housing units were spared from the storm.
We recently knocked down one of our older employee housing structures, and now we're in the process of building another one. And that one needs to be finished by the end of this month, or we don't know where we're going to put some people, because they're all right along a large tree line. For several days, we could just hear the branches coming down, and I kept looking back there.
There may be some trails that are not accessible for a good chunk of the 2025 season. But the primary roadways, the major landmarks, I have very solid expectations that we'll have those open and ready for guests when the main tourist season kind of kicks off in May.
Miller says Fort Mackinac opens in 3 weeks. On Mackinac Island, Daniel Zivian, UpNorthLive News.
And Daniel is joining us live now in his car, so clearly off the island. Hey, Daniel.
Yes, off the island. Of course, if you go to the island now, and you might have caught a glimpse of this, you can see pickup trucks and other ATVs driving around. And of course, you saw a shot from within one of those, driven by a parks employee who was very gracious to us to give us a lift.
So every now and then there are indeed vehicles on Mackinac Island. But Daniel, the past week and a half, you have been traveling around northern Michigan, going to different areas that have been impacted by the ice storms. How would you compare what you've seen in other communities to what you witnessed today on Mackinac Island?
Well, of course, there's the factor of time. I don't think anything will be as bad as the drive I had last Monday. I'm sure it looked quite that bad on Mackinac Island at that time. But, now that we're a week out, cleanup has been pretty active. And so I would say it doesn't compare too highly to some of the worst that I saw personally last week. But, it's pretty darn rough that even on the clear path that myself and Dominic were walking down in order to, try and get where we were going, there was still a lot of debris left. They had done the minimum effort required to get those paths clear so that emergency services could, make their way down. But there was still a lot left. There's still a lot left to do everywhere. And it's when you go to Mackinac Island, you're usually struck by how neat it is. And it's not neat now anyway because of the preseason setup. But I've never seen any of this for myself. So it was pretty striking.
And we saw in your story you talked with a resident who lives on the island, Aaron Bates. Can you share a little more about what his experiences have been living on the island during all of this?
Yeah, there's so much that, it's hard to fit everything in. His personal story, he and his wife, they work for the company that owns Joanne's Fudge and also the Main Street Inn. That's where I was speaking to them on the balcony of that inn. What he told me was that up at their, I believe, condo that they have further up on the island, he and his wife were sort of battening the hatches that night, the night of the storm. And he says that, the fire department, and of course, everyone knows each other. So he knows the people on the fire department. The fire department called him and said, don't leave your house. There's a downed power line in your front yard. Don't leave your house. We'll take care of it. And then he was fine. And then he and his wife, Jen, were finally able to venture outside. He says that luckily that area wasn't hit too hard, at least not the area close to where he lives. But yeah, it was just, that's just a rough experience. He also said, admittedly, that he was a tad lucky that power for him came back on sooner than it did for a lot of other people. But yeah, it's a pretty wild experience.
So where do recovery efforts go from here on the island? Is there like an estimated date of when they hope everything is picked up and quote unquote back to somewhat of a normalcy?
Well, that's kind of the trick, is that they're going to try to get it as best they can by the time Fort Mackinac opens, which is in a few weeks, and especially closer to the end of May, things will be really picking up. But as Dominic said, they can't put a time on it. There are just going to be some hiking trails that during the summer won't be accessible very easily. There's just no way of knowing this early on what that's going to take. That's why they're filing the request for assistance. It should be said that, right now, there's not a lot of taxpayer funding going into this. Mackinac State Historic Parks, generate a lot of their own revenue, the same way the bridge generates its own revenue. Mm-hmm. And they are able to do this, sort of on budget for right now, which is a good thing. But they are filing that request for National Guard assistance, which should help speed things up. And another factor speeding it up is, the seasonal employees that would be showing up anyway are there. Again, there's a lot of work already happening on the island in order to get the businesses up and running. I mean, you stroll through downtown. I have some more footage of the work happening downtown, but I don't want to confuse people because that has nothing to do with the power situation. That's just the standard preseason Mackinac Island rigmarole.
Sure. Well, Daniel, you got to know what my next question is going to be. Is there anything else that you want to mention that we haven't discussed yet?
Well, there were a couple of hikers. It was interesting. They cannot stress enough. You're not really supposed to come to the island right now if you want to go hiking in the interior. Town is fine, but Dominic and I actually came across a couple of hikers toward Arch Rock. And he was just like, there's nothing we can do about that. We've got our message everywhere. So, go to the island at your own risk. Just know you might not be able to get everywhere. You certainly won't be able to bike around the island. We didn't go all the way up this way to British Landing, which is one of the major stopping points, because that would have been forever. But if you want to have a limited time on the island in the next couple of weeks before the crowds come in, you're just going to be very limited on your options. Arch Rock still looks very beautiful, though.
Always does. All right, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. From one island to another, recovery continues on Beaver Island in Charlevoix County. Take a look at this. Electric crews were transported Sunday by barge, which was actually pulled by a tugboat. Then on Tuesday, a few dozen DNR and Michigan National Guard crews, among others, headed over as well. The group will be clearing roads of debris and making sure that there's access to emergency communication towers. Now, the DNR and the National Guard crew members are expected to be on site through Thursday. And today we spoke with the island's Chamber of Commerce director, Paul Cole, who said power to the north end of the island was restored yesterday, and crews are working to making their way to the southern end, which received the most extensive damage. Now, there's about 600 people who live on Beaver Island all year, and Cole said luckily no homes were damaged in the storm and no one was hurt. Switching gears now, we are heading to Washington, D.C. for our next story. That's where Governor Gretchen Whitmer delivered a major speech before the 90-day pause on tariffs was announced today. So the governor laying out the likely impacts of potential tariffs on folks here in Michigan, expected to be one of the states that could be hit the hardest. The governor noted ties to, of course, the auto industry, an estimated 20% of our state's economy. She said the auto industry depends on steady supply chain from our closest trading partners. Now, the governor instead advocating for slimmer targeted tariffs geared to curb prices and not raise them. She says the bipartisan approach is the way to get there. Take a listen.
I came to DC because I really believe in our ability to bridge political divides and make lasting progress. And yes, I do believe that even in my 7th year as governor, in this tumultuous time, in this country and around the globe, Michiganders have an opportunity and I believe an obligation to lead by example and show the folks in DC how we get things done.
And the governor is expected to meet with President Trump and cabinet officials alongside Speaker Matt Hall. Now, after hearing the governor's speech in Washington, D.C., I know a lot of questions were brought up of, do you think she could potentially run for president in 2028? We just want to know what your thoughts are on that. That is our question of the day today. Do you think Governor Whitmer will be running for president in the 2028 election? Scan the QR code on your screen right now. That'll take you to our website where you can vote. We have 332 votes. It's pretty split. People are not quite sure if she will run or not at this point. She hasn't come out and said she will or she will not. We also have a lot of comments on this. So if you want to join the conversation, head over to our Facebook page, Up North Live. All right, before the break, let's have a little bit of fun and continue our Exploring Michigan series. Today, we're heading to the Air Zoo in Kalamazoo. It's become a destination museum for aviation enthusiasts all across the country. More than 100,000 artifacts tell a pretty unique story of aerospace heritage and innovation. Will Haney shows us around.
The Air Zoo is an all-encompassing aerospace and science experience for the whole family. We are part Air and Space Museum. We have over 100 incredible aircraft and spacecraft, some one of a kind in the world.
The Air Zoo has called Kalamazoo home since 1979. Now, the museum hosts a little over 200,000 visitors each year. Troy Thrash is the president and CEO.
And we are part Hands-On Science Center. So we've got all sorts of hands-on exhibits to bring the science, the technology of the aircraft and spacecraft to life for people of all ages. You really do tend to fall in love with some really cool, remarkable historical artifacts here.
Perhaps the museum's most distinguished aircraft, the SR-71B Blackbird.
The fastest aircraft ever flown, right behind me here, is the only one of its kind in the world right here at the Air Zoo.
From the first passenger planes to space exploration, every generation of flight is represented. But there's much more than just airplanes in this massive space. Admission also includes several indoor rides, fun for the whole family.
And if you've ever wanted to get the experience of flying, 4 flight simulators at the Air Zoo can give you that experience. Riders 48 inches or taller can take to the skies, even flip upside down if you're feeling adventurous. Here we go. Jeez.
Don't miss the Air Zoo's Flight Discovery Center. Here, a team of nearly 100 volunteers works to restore recovered aircraft to their original glory.
We specialize in World War II aircraft that have been on the bottom of Lake Michigan for 50 plus years. So we do this very uniquely. We do this work right on our exhibit floor,
giving visitors the chance to ask questions and interact with the restoration team. Thrash says sparking curiosity and inspiring future scientists is a key part of what the museum is all about.
We want them to leave here thinking, I love this stuff, and I can be a future engineer, a future scientist, a future pilot, a future explorer.
Will always looks like he's having so much fun on these Exploring Michigan stories. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. Chief Meteorologist Joe Charlevoix will have your forecast straight ahead and a look towards the weekend. Stick around.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Well, a few lucky folks across northern Michigan got some peaks of sunshine today. Most of us saw a lot of clouds, maybe a little bit of rain and snow, but we do have more sunshine in the forecast looking ahead to our weekend. But before we get there, Joe, what can we expect for Thursday? Any sunshine?
Let's get just to Friday, right?
Can we get to Saturday?
I saw some sun. Well, not here. I just pulled up the Whitefish Point camera and I just looked at it today.
There you go.
Didn't have to drive all the way there. But yeah, there was a little sun up that way, but otherwise it was pretty cloudy. But everybody's going to get some sun on Friday and Saturday, which will be nice. It's that time of the year, too, for National Weather Service spotter training. And we have another class. There's a number of these that will take place. This class is in Benzie County tomorrow night. So 6 o'clock tomorrow evening at the Benzie County Government Center in Beulah. It'll be in the commissioner's room there at Court Place. Class is free to attend. The National Weather Service office out of Gaylord will be on hand. They'll give a presentation. And once you attend that class, you then become a certified weather spotter for the National Weather Service. I had somebody email, do you have to be in Benzie County to go? No, you can be from anywhere. But that particular class is in Benzie County. All right, here's our email temperatures. Yeah, I'm working along, so we're in a long stretch here, but we're getting there, right, Maya? 30s and 40s tonight. Mackinac Island 32. It's 43 at Frankfort. It is a little warmer than it was earlier in the week. Here's that cloud cover we were talking about, and you can see some clouds here, but downstate a little more in the way of rain and snow, including there around Kalamazoo. You can see the snow there. Much of that mess will kind of stay to the south. Low pressure, you see these two areas of low pressure will pass south of us, but maybe close enough to brush our area with a little rain and snow. If you live, kind of draw a line Manistee to Houghton Lake south, right here. So tomorrow morning, it could be a little bit messy down that way. We're talking Reed City, Big Rapids, Clare, perhaps Ludington, Pentwater, and then that'll move on. And then watch up north, right there, see a couple spotty showers in the afternoon or evening. And then watch what happens to all this. Goodbye. And we get into Friday with a nice day coming up on Friday. Friday is going to be beautiful. Maybe a little bit of early day fog. And with the same thing on Saturday. There's the start of our weekend. We'll be enjoying some of that sunshine coming up. Here's a little more of a specific look at the weekend. Low mid 50s on Saturday, mostly sunny skies. And then Sunday, it's going to cloud up for the second half of the weekend. We could even see a few late day showers. But look at the temperatures over the weekend, generally in the 50s. So it's going to be a little warmer. And Saturday is that day with lots of sun. All right, let's look beyond the weekend into early next week. A couple rain and snow or rain showers on Monday. And then a cold front will slice its way through here. And I didn't want to put it in. I didn't. But there is the chance for maybe a couple scattered snow showers on Tuesday. I wouldn't worry about it.
I'm still laughing at the fact that you called the forecast an email.
Well, I was thinking of like an email, and so
Yep.
You get it. All right.
We've all been there, Joe. Don't worry. All right. Thank you, Joe. Let's take another quick break, but Sports Director Harrison Beebe will be joining us live coming up next. Baseball season is in full swing down in Detroit and here in northern Michigan. Let's turn things over to sports director Harrison Beebe, who was at a baseball game up here. Hey, Harrison.
Hey, Maya. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? How was the game?
Game was pretty good. You know, this time of year, you never really know with the weather. I know a lot of schools will purposely avoid scheduling home games as long as possible just to ensure they don't give themselves headaches as far as makeup schedulings and postponements and whatnot. But Glen Lake was a host site for today's game with Lake Leelanau St. Mary. Last check, the Lakers were leading that one 5-0 over the Eagles. They played doubleheader, of course, in baseball and softball in the spring to minimize, as we were just talking about, minimizing travel and crazy rescheduling that allows the teams to kind of squeeze in 2 games and get some flexibility with the rest of their seasons. And Glen Lake's baseball field kind of holds a special place in my heart. It was actually the first high school sporting event I covered in my first day officially on the job as sports director. I'd done a lot of sports coverage for the station beforehand, but in my first day taking over the duties back in 2013, I went to Glen Lake to catch a Monday baseball game out there. So I always kind of try and find those, full circle moments every year when I head out there. It's like, just like the good old days, 12 years ago now.
Yeah, nice little sentimental moment for you there, Harrison. Well, not as
Now,
sentimental.
Maya, we know we had even more baseball to talk about this afternoon. The Tigers and the Yankees wrapping things up at Comerica Park did not go the Tigers' way, but they came close. It was a 4-0 deficit in the bottom of the 9th. And to quote the old Jim Leland, this team plays 9 innings, and they play 9 innings hard. And they tried their best to tie it up in the bottom of the 9th, but 4-3 the final. Interesting subplot, though. Both starting pitchers of this one were high school teammates, and they met up in the majors as opposing starting pitchers. That'd be Jack Flaherty for the Tigers and Max Fried for the New York Yankees. And both combined for 20 strikeouts, too, which is pretty cool for them to probably tell that story at high school reunions down the road.
That's awesome. Well, you can't win them all, but it kind of just goes to show that at least we do try to make an effort to come back in the 9th. Just couldn't quite get there today.
Yeah, and this is a team that is 5-1 at home, and if your one loss is going to be to the reigning American League champions, then I guess there are worse problems to have.
Can't complain too much. All right, thank you so much, Harrison. We're going to take a quick break, but coming up next, we'll take a live look at the question of the day. Stay with us.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Well, Michigan's next gubernatorial election is coming up in 2026, and we know that current governor Gretchen Whitmer is term limited, so she is ineligible to seek a third term. So what do you think is next for her? Do you think that Governor Whitmer could potentially run for president in 2028? 51% say yes, 49% say no. A close one. We have 364 votes and 376 comments on our Facebook page. I'm not even going to attempt to read any of them because there are so many, but that's where you can join in on the conversation. We are all out of time here on Unscripted. Thank you for spending some time with us. We hope to see you back here at 11 o'clock tonight.